if you take altered states is any state other than whatever someone thinks is their normal. And if you take intoxication, right? Take getting drunk. A lot of people wouldn't think of that being a flow state. It's definitely an altered state. But yeah. So can you distinguish between?
Yeah. So we were talking about non-ordinary states of consciousness.
Yeah.
Particular bandwidth of the altered state spectrum, and it is. One of the shorthand is all the experiences that are north of happy, but you're talking about flow states, awe, psychedelic states, trance states, meditative states, and contemplative states. And the reason this category exists, and this is old research, 100 years ago, William James noticed this, and now we know this neurobiologically. So the 21st century is a brainwave signature, right? We know that we have hyperactivity in our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that does complex decision-making and problem solving. We get a steady drip of like stress hormones like cortisol and norepinephrine. Brain waves are in beta, which is a fast moving wave. Is where our brains are right now to have a conversation. In this particular bandwidth of non-ordinary states, flow, meditation, psychedelics, etc., this signature shifts. Prefrontal cortex starts to deactivate. Stress hormones are flushed out of our system, replaced by positive feel-good neurochemicals like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins. And brainwaves move from agitated beta down to calmer alpha and theta. This neurobiological signature is roughly the same in all of these non-ordinary states. So flow is one of them, but what happens in the brain, very, very similar in the others. And more importantly, what happens, how we feel, right? You asked a question earlier, we think about flow this way, but other people do it for this and this. Turns out flow and all these states have 4 signature characteristics. We use the acronym STER, S-T-E-R, to represent them. It stands for selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. Selflessness and timelessness, as our prefrontal cortex starts to shut down, that's where our sense of self is created. That's where time is calculated in the brain. So as these things turn off, we lose the ability to create our sense of self. So our inner critic, right, that nagging defeatist, always on voice in our head, has to go quiet. Timelessness, we fall out of time. All of our attention is focused in the right here, right now. It also has a really big impact on mood because most of our fears are in the past or in the future, right? They're not often, as we're facing an immediate danger, in the present. So we're freed from a tremendous amount of anxiety by losing the self, timelessness. Effortlessness refers to the massive boost in motivation that you get from these states, right? The passion that you referred to earlier. These states are the best we get to feel on this planet. That's pretty much well established. And the reason is all of those neurochemicals that show up, they're pleasure drugs. Among many other things, they're the most potent pleasure drugs we can get. And in these states, we seem to get the largest concentration available to us. Finally, the last side of this is information richness. In these states, we feel like we're tapping into this plane of ideas, right? Inspiration goes through the roof. Intuition goes through the roof. In studies run all over the place, including stuff by the Flow Genome Project, creativity spikes 400 to 700% in these states. Where is this coming from? It's not, you don't need to kind of look for magic or whatever, even though we did. For years it was, oh, the muses are talking to me. This is divine inspiration. I don't know where it's coming from. Where it's coming from, the fact we're trading conscious processing, just very slow, very limited, and has a really tiny bandwidth, right? We can think about 7 things at once, or to put it in terms of computer bits, the conscious mind can process, depends on whose numbers you like. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi said 120 bits a second. 60 bits is what it takes to listen to me talk. So we both start talking at once, your listeners are just max. That's it, you're done. And conscious thought moves about 100, 150 miles an hour. The subconscious, which is what you're trading up for in these states, has unlimited RAM, can hold on to anything, moves at about 100,000 miles per hour, and can find really great connections very, very quickly as a result. So in these states, we take in more information per second, we process it more quickly, we process it more completely, using more of the brain, right? So it taps us into this massive up-leveling in vision and inspiration and all those things. So the combination, even though these states seem really disparate and the users are totally different, neurobiologically, they're very, very similar. And in terms of how they make us feel, they're very, very similar. So it's a bigger story than just the flow story, is what the answer to return to where we started. What did I stumble upon? that there's more going on than just flow in terms of people pursuing non-ordinary states to enhance performance. And there's a reason for this. There's a reason, and these things stack really well, right? That's probably one of the coolest things to come out of all this research is, you know this because you live it, right? A high flow lifestyle, it also is going to include probably a regular meditation practice. It's going to include something creative as a flow trigger. There's going to be movement and body, and you're going to go surfing, you're going to do something like that. So you stack these techniques, and that's really, I think, what the best innovators, I've spent my life essentially saying, hey, how do people do the impossible? What does that take? Whether we're talking about athletes achieving unbelievable heights, innovators creating the biggest companies in the world in the shortest times we've ever seen, doesn't matter. And across the boards, everybody we meet, everywhere we look, everybody we've encountered who is doing this has found a way to change the channel on normal waking consciousness, to get their self out of their way and to unlock this higher level of inspiration.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.